Jake Paul's California mansion has been raided by the FBI, multiple news organizations report. You can see in this aerial footage agents in uniform outside his home in Calabasas.
You know what's funny about your brother? Your brother talks more shit than anybody else on the planet. They're trying to fucking sue people when people talk. There's people out there saying they're fake fights.
Things are getting chaotic again around Jake Paul, and this time it feels heavier than the usual online chatter. The internet is buzzing with fresh accusations, suggesting that some of Jake's biggest fights were allegedly planned ahead of time, including the massive Netflix showdown with Anthony Joshua.
FBI agents have raided the Southern California home of YouTube star Jake Paul. Federal officials say the search was part of an investigation. Wendy Birch is in Calabasas with what we're learning tonight.
Sky 5 was overhead this morning as federal agents entered Jake Paul's Calabasas home located in this gated community off of Mulholland Highway.
You know, for me, in my opinion, I think it's scripted a little bit because, you know, of the weight difference and, you know, Joshua is a former, you know, champion. And also, you know, he's current, he's active, you know what I mean?
That was not a boxing match. Jake Paul had a very healthy fear for his life while he was in there. He was running away. He was trying to get distance. Then he was trying to step in to win this contest. And then he's trying to get out of the way so that he doesn't get hurt.
To be clear, none of these claims have been proven, but the rumors spread quickly, with some corners of social media even pushing wild speculation about possible legal trouble involving Jake and his brother.
You know, our lawyers are actively going after a number of people. One who claims to be a lawyer himself online. I don't remember the name or the handle, but it was something that had like 200,000 likes. And basically this post said there was an agreement for AJ not to knock out Jake, but AJ disregarded the agreement and decided to not get his payday, but knock out Jake Paul. So it's pretty astonishing what people say.
Promoters and boxing officials have already pushed back strongly, reminding everyone that fixing professional fights would carry serious legal consequences, not just viral backlash. Still, the real damage right now isn't coming from courts. It's coming from public trust. Skepticism around Jake's legitimacy has reached a new level, made worse by past controversies, including that widely reported FBI raid years ago.
Jake Paul's California mansion has been raided by the FBI, multiple news organizations report. You can see in this aerial footage agents in uniform outside his home in Calabasas.
I get so many people can't speak. Yeah, but it's obviously scripted, isn't it? I'm like, no. One, that's illegal. I mean, this is a professional contest. Two, we would never sign up to anything that's going to make AJ look bad or devalue him, lose rounds, go loads of rounds.
Do you think there's any world in which AJ pulls back, though?
No, absolutely. He couldn't do that as a fighter. He would be incapable of going in there and holding.
Fair or not, the discussion has shifted from whether Jake is improving to whether people can still believe what they're watching. That's dangerous territory for a fighter whose rise depends on attention and credibility. The question now isn't just about one fight or one rumor. It's whether this cloud slows down or completely derails one of the most unusual and talked about runs boxing has ever seen.
Netflix series. You can watch it and you can go, well, I get the gist of it. Why have you got to turn it into 10 episodes? Because I'm dying with boredom after episode.
Are you telling me that Netflix probably emphasised, listen guys, keep this as long as you can?
Anthony Joshua didn't step, irrespective. I sat to all these guys, whether it be Spencer or Paul Smith, talking about the fact that Jake Paul couldn't run, didn't have the footwork to be able to move around the ring and get away from Anthony Joshua. And irrespective of the fact that he proved he can run, I mean, we knew he could run because he's got legs. But the fact of the matter is, Anthony Joshua, as an elite fighter, and all this ring rust cobblers, he's not the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz. He was fighting against a YouTuber who hasn't got any level about him. So with due respect to the situation, Anthony Joshua didn't throw any meaningful punches. Even the punch that he knocked him out was an arm punch. And you look at the reality and you think to yourself, Anthony Joshua knew what he was in with. He's been broken into America now as a media star alongside being a boxer. Netflix have got some wonderful content, and Jake Paul runs around doing what Jake Paul does. So everybody wins, and only the people that don't win are the people that go, well, look at it. And even the people that think Anthony Joshua is a busted flush now go, well, that proves the point. Well, maybe it gets him a fight against Fabio Wardley, because maybe it lures Fabio Wardley into the thinking that actually I'll have this version of Anthony Joshua, and then the real version of Anthony Joshua emerges. The bottom line is you take nothing.
For a long time, many boxing analysts, former fighters, and even promoters have been side-eyeing Jake Paul well before these latest rumors surfaced. This isn't a sudden pile-on. The skepticism has been building for years. Critics point to patterns that don't sit right, opponents chosen at the perfect moment when mileage is already there, fights unfolding at an oddly cautious pace, knockdowns arriving late and right on cue, and whispers of contracts with limits that feel more like guardrails than real agreements.
Jake lost to Tommy Fury, and that's the one everyone keeps on. Do you think he's improved much since Tommy Fury?
Yeah, but do I think he's improved enough to be competitive? Unless I close my eyes and Josh is completely shot to bits, no.
Yeah, and so is the potential that Jake Paul, like, I know you keep saying no, and you're right, but is there a world in which you see Jake Paul
come on, stop.
landing a shot and doing it?
Of course he can land a shot.
No, landing a shot and doing something. No.
As soon as he feels the first jab, he's going to be like, what the f*** have I signed up to?
Yeah, lovely. Well, at least you're on the same page then, mate.
He's just going to touch him the first time. With the first jab, he's going to go, what the f*** was
Just
that?
it, mate, yeah.
It's a pair of 10-ounce grandson. Could you imagine when it lands?
10 ounce. I know, 10 ounce. That's what we wore. You're a big lump anyway.
A jab with 10-ounce gloves on hurts.
Yeah,
and that first jab lands, and as sharp as AJ will be.
To them, it hasn't looked like the natural chaos of boxing. It's looked calculated, polished, and almost too clean. And that's the issue. Boxing fans are conditioned to accept brutal unpredictability, not choreography. When enough people across the sport start saying the same thing independently, the conversation shifts. It stops sounding like hate and starts feeling like doubt. And once doubt sets in, wins on paper matter less, because fans begin questioning whether the climb was built on grit or carefully controlled circumstances.
Here's a fun fact. If I ever come across you, bum, I'm knocking you dead spark out. I ain't a YouTuber or a man half your size. I am him, the man. You're a classless loser coming off a 15 months knockout defeat to a local lad. Imagine if someone from Morecambe knocked me out. You big bum, useless tosser. Get up, and I can't wait if Jake Paul knocks your spark out, you big bum. Get up.
This is where the conversation shifts from internet conspiracy into something more grounded. Listening to this breakdown, I find myself nodding more than rolling my eyes. After all the scripted noise around Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua, this take feels like someone slowing the tape down and watching what actually happened. I agree with the core point. It didn't look rigged. It looked awkward, risky, and uncomfortable, the way real fights often do. Joshua wasn't rushing because he couldn't afford to. One reckless mistake would have lived online forever. Meanwhile, Jake didn't fight like a boxer. He fought like someone trying to survive, circling, clinching, shooting in, killing rhythm, turning the ring into chaos. Was it pretty? No. Was it effective for lasting longer than expected? Absolutely.
To lose a point or some kind of warning, he was doing double leg takedowns the entire fight. He wasn't throwing punches, he was running and circling, and then the second Anthony Joshua got close to him, he would shoot in on him with a double leg. Okay, now, sure, that works for an MMA fight. It was a nice example of how you can get by a boxer's punches numerous times. It also exhausted him. He must have shot in at least, no joke, 30 or 35 times in that fight, which is just absurd. And again, I think that's what threw off the pacing of the fight and made Anthony Joshua look a little bit awkward in the early rounds because he was keeping distance. He didn't want to get caught with that overhand right. And then as he stepped in, every time he closed the gap, Jake Paul would just shoot in and get into tight range, like clinch range. And very good strategy for self-defense.
That's why the pacing felt strange, not because of a script, but because Joshua was dealing with disorder instead of clean exchanges. What surprised even me was Jake's durability. You can joke about influencer boxing, but taking clean heavyweight shots late and still getting up says something about his chin and stubbornness. At the same time, let's not rewrite history. This wasn't high-level boxing from Jake. It was awkward survival mixed with panic management. AJ adjusted, stayed patient, let fatigue do the work, and once the opening stayed there, the fight ended exactly as it should have. The real takeaway isn't rigged or carried. It's that pressure makes fights messy, expectations distort reality, and fans often confuse fast knockouts with proof of greatness. Joshua won clean, Jake showed toughness, and the internet proved it still struggles to understand how uncomfortable real fights can look when ego, size, and risk collide.
Believe it or not, I do not think that this fight was rigged. I think what happened was that, number one, Anthony Joshua had a lot to lose. If he got reckless and he got caught and KO'd in the early rounds, that would have been the most embarrassing upset in all of boxing history. Now, it's easy to sit on a couch and watch him and say, well, he still should have done it. But no, you're going to be more defensive. You're going to get a read, and you're going to try and understand how the guy's moving. Now, this is where I could see why it was difficult in the early rounds for Anthony Joshua. Jake Paul did not fight like a boxer.
This is where the tone flips from analysis to straight boxing honesty. Once Duke McKenzie starts talking, the sugarcoating disappears. Listening to him, I'm thinking, this is what happens when a Real fighter watches a survival mission disguised as a fight. Duke isn't confused by why it took 6 rounds. He explains it clearly. You can't knock someone out quickly if they refuse to cooperate. Jake Paul came in with one goal: don't get caught clean. The Roadrunner comparison is funny but accurate. This wasn't rhythm. It was cardio panic mixed with clinching and hitting the floor. When Duke calls the performance pathetic, it's not hate. It's expectation. You talked big, sold it as competitive, then spent 6 rounds avoiding contact like a fly dodging a newspaper. From his perspective, that isn't clever. That's survival. And there's a difference. The big ring, the running, the tying up explain the timing, but they don't excuse the gap in levels. When he says AJ wasn't threatened for a second, that's not exaggeration. That's experience reading danger.
Well, you know, a lot of people are sort of jumping on Joshua's case saying, why did it take 8 rounds? 6 rounds. Why did it take 6 rounds for him to get Jake Paul out of there? But as I've stated before quite clearly, you know, it's hard to take somebody out when they won't cooperate. I mean, Jake Paul, he was running around like the Roadrunner in that film. Sorry, that's Trevor again. He does this to me every time. Every time I get on, he gets the raving up. Stop, puppy, come out. Yeah, sorry. Jake Paul running around like the Roadrunner last night. He was a bigger letdown because he talked the talk and obviously couldn't back it up. Now, from the minute he got into that ring, to get on the back foot and just start running around was quite pathetic. It almost reminded me of, like, you know, like when you see a fly on the windscreen and you're trying to swap that fly and you just can't get it.
What really lands is how Duke shifts the focus back to Anthony Joshua, because this fight was never about Jake winning. It was about AJ remembering who he is. Duke nails it when he says this was a confidence fight, not a statement fight. Knock out Ngannou, knock out Jake Paul, check the boxes, rebuild belief. You can almost hear AJ thinking, I can still pull the trigger. That's dangerous for the division. Duke also shuts down the idea that AJ held back with one sentence. You don't break a man's jaw in 2 places if you're holding back. Debate over. 6 rounds was fair, not rushed, not reckless, just controlled work against a guy whose entire plan was to avoid damage. When Duke talks about levels, it isn't disrespect. It's a safety line. YouTubers fighting YouTubers is entertainment. Real boxers fighting real boxers is a profession with consequences. Cross those lanes too often, and someone doesn't walk away with just a broken jaw. AJ did what he had to do. Jake learned a hard lesson. And Duke reminded everyone that boxing isn't about hype. It's about reality catching up, usually with a right hand.
It was like seeing a fly on the windscreen. AJ was trying to swat him, and every time he got a little bit closer, he kept moving. Then he moved again. It was quite a pathetic performance from Jake Paul, given he kept talking the talk, beating his chest, screaming at everyone, trying to convince everybody that he could somehow win this fight. But that was never going to happen. It was so one-sided. It was quite pathetic, to be honest with you. I thought a pathetic performance from Jake Paul, because, as AJ said, and everybody knows, he's not a real boxer. There's levels to this game, and he was way out of his level, way out of his depth.
That's where this whole situation settles for me. Strip away the rumors, hot takes, slow motion breakdowns, and internet detectives, and what's left is a fight that exposed exactly what it needed to expose. Jake Paul stepped into the deepest water of his boxing experiment and survived longer than most expected. But survival isn't the same as belonging at that level. Anthony Joshua didn't chase a viral moment. He handled business, rebuilt confidence, and reminded everyone that heavyweight boxing isn't something you can fast-track forever. The doubt around Jake didn't come from one punch or one rumor. It came from years of controlled moments finally colliding with reality. Some fans will keep calling it scripted. Others will say AJ should have ended it sooner. The truth lives in the uncomfortable middle. Real fights are messy. Patience beats panic, and levels always reveal themselves. That's the takeaway. Not conspiracy. Not excuses. Just boxing doing what it always does when hype meets experience. Now I want to hear from you. Is the skepticism around Jake Paul fair at this point, or is he being judged by impossible standards? Did AJ handle it the right way, or should a heavyweight of his level never let it reach 6? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Boxing Headquarters. See you in the next one.